Welcome to Oxford News This Week. I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Terry Stiles, and coming up in the news this week, learn what happened to a local resident who tried to file his tax returns. And the Lone Ranger is back looking for funds.
Stay tuned to learn more about these stories and others. The Oxford News begins right now. An Oxford resident called the local police to complain that after filing his federal tax returns, the IRS notified him that his form was rejected on the basis that a return had already been filed with his name and social security number. When he called the IRS and told them that someone else had falsified the documents, they put a stop payment on the fraudulent return. They then instructed him to attach a police report and an ID theft affidavit to his return and then resubmit.
Oxford Village police were called to a fist fight on West Burdick and Washington Streets. When officers arrived, however, all they found was one man who was sitting in his car with damage to his face. The man refused to identify the other person in the fight and did not want to file charges.
And village officers were contacted about a truck that caught fire inside a local resident's garage. The fire was extinguished and there was no serious damage to the vehicle or the garage.
An afternoon of Old West-themed fun and fancy shooting is being organized as a fundraiser for the upcoming Lone Ranger Parade planned for August 2nd of this year. The fundraiser is called the Silver Bullet Shoot-Off and will take place at the Bald Mountain Shooting Range in Orion Township on July 14th at 3 p.m. For those of you who might be interested, the shoot-off is limited to revolvers up to .45 caliber, and they must be 18 years of age. The fee is $65 per person. Applications for the Silver Bullet Shoot-Off can be obtained by going online at www.homeofthemask.com or stop by the village offices at 22 West Burdick Street. If you are new to the Oxford area, the parade is a tribute to resident Brace Beamer, who died in 1961. Our famous resident portrayed the Lone Ranger on the Detroit radio station WXYZ from 1941 to 1954. Last year, the Lone Ranger Parade and activities brought people from across the state, and the hope from the committee is for an event even larger this year.
Well, potholes are in the news again, but this time the news is good news. The county wants to identify and expedite road repair services for more efficiency, and the Oakland County Road Commission is providing a new, easy-to-remember phone line to its customer service department. To obtain faster road repair services, Oakland County residents can now call toll-free 1-844-OAK-ROAD, or and those that don't want to convert, it's 625-7623. Residents can also report concerns by going to www.rcocweb.org and click on Contact Us.
In early May, the Canadian-based oil company Enbridge plans to replace its final 50 miles of old pipeline with a new 30-inch diameter line. The 6.5 miles of the new pipe runs through Oxford, and 6 miles runs through Edison Township. When the line is finally finished, the 285-mile pipe is expected to carry a capacity of up to 500 barrels of oil per day.
As a reward for collecting nearly $8,000 during the annual Lakeville Jump Rope for Heart fundraiser, some selected fourth grade students were excited about placing whipped cream, chocolate sauce, sprinkles, and maraschino cherries on top side of Principal Christy Gibson Marshall's head. All accepted with a great sense of humor. By the way, she made a great imitation sundae. Well, at least the kids thought she looked pretty yummy.
That's a good way to get in good with the kids, isn't it? So I am really excited to start talking about the Lone Ranger Parade and the Lone Ranger events that are coming up. And Melissa Morrison, I didn't mention it in the newscast, is the one that's putting this shoot-off together. And I'm really hoping that there's a lot of people that have shooting competitions around the area will attend that. It's really going to be a neat event. I'm going to be there. How about you?
Yeah, no, definitely. And not only that, but I can say that there's a lot of people that really get excited about the parade that's going to be coming up.
Yeah, I hope so.
And all I can say is yippee-ki-yay, and hi-yo silver.
Hi-yo silver,
Hi-yo
right,
silver?
with a Y-O.
Okay.
This is Oxford News This Week, and if you'd like to learn more about the stories we just talked about or more news in the community, go to any of our local stores and pick up a copy of the Oxford Leader News. Boy, that was hard to say. Oxford Leader newspaper.
Coming up next on OCTV, more news. First, Oxford local sports, and then join Dave Kenny with his automotive talk show and Science in the News programs. And then right after that, reports I'll be back with your weekly calendar of events. Remember that one, right?
Yep, hopefully you'll get there. This is Oxford News This Week. I'm Terry Stiles.
And I'm Elgin Nichols. Remember, always be kind to your friends and neighbors, and thanks for watching.
You're watching OCTV, Oxford Community Television, serving Oxford, Addison Township, and the village of Leonard.
Hi, I'm Paul.
I'm Stephanie.
And we're from the Oxford Yoga Studio in downtown Oxford. We're a new studio and we're opening up at the end of April this month. So come check us out. We're also doing Rise and Shine Yoga that is on every morning at 8:30. So if you get a chance, want to do some yoga, come on down. And we'll see you hopefully at the end of April.
Looking forward to it.
Welcome to this edition of Auto Talk. I'm Dave Kenny, and these stories are taken from the publication Automotive News. In our first story, General Motors plans to invest $449 million at its Detroit-Hamtramck assembly plant and a batteries facility in suburban Detroit to build the next generation Chevrolet Volt and 2 future vehicles that weren't disclosed. The plant includes $384 million at the Detroit-Hamtramck plant for new body shop tooling, equipment, and additional plant upgrades. The other $65 million is earmarked for the Brownstown Battery Assembly south of Detroit and will help develop the next generation of lithium-ion battery production and future battery systems, the statement said. The Detroit-Hamtramck plant employs about 1,600 workers on a single shift. It's currently the only facility assembling the plug-in hybrid. The plant also produces the Cadillac ELR, the Chevrolet Malibu, and Chevrolet Impala, and the Volt's European sister, the Opel Ampera. GM has invested more than $1 billion at the site in the last 5 years. The battery assembly plant is about 30 miles south of the Detroit-Hamtramck factory in Brownstown Township, Michigan. The plant makes the batteries for the Volt, Ampera, and ELR, a GM spokesman said. Johnson said the plant is the first U.S. high-volume manufacturing site of automotive lithium-ion batteries technology. Wow. And good news for Chevrolet. Only the Chevrolet Equinox and the GMC Terrain survived the challenging new small overlap test for midsize SUVs from the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety with a good rating. The Equinox, Terrain, and Toyota Highlander earned a top safety pick award for the test, but the Highlander received an average rating from the group. Introduced in 2012, the small overlap test recreates conditions in which the front corner of a vehicle strikes another vehicle or object. During the test, the front quarter of the driver's side of the vehicle collides with a barrier at 40 miles an hour. The test differs from a head-on collision because the front-end crush zone is bypassed, which can result in the passenger compartment collapsing. The results were good news for General Motors, which is battling a safety image crisis because of several lawsuits and investigations stemming from the recall of 2.6 million smaller cars for faulty ignition switches. The failed switches have been linked to 13 deaths. Well, at Volkswagen, citing the risk of a leak in the transmission oil cooler, Volkswagen of America has ordered U.S. dealers to stop selling newer cars equipped with an automatic transmission and VW's most common engine, the 1.8-liter EA88. That is to say, EA 888. The stop sale order sent to dealers April 8th applies to cars produced after February 1st. VW spokesman Scott Vazen said the problem arose when a supplier changed the specifications of an O-ring linking the transmission oil cooler to the transmission. In extreme cases, it could cause a fire, Vazen said, of the leaky O-ring. That's why we're notifying NHTSA to see where the process goes. Starting in model year 2014, it was the base engine in the American-made Passat sedan and Mexican-made Beetle, and was available in the Mexican-made Jetta sedan. The memo says a follow-up communication will be released to dealers as soon as possible, and that the required parts will be available the week of April 14th. And at Ford Motor Company is recalling 385,700 model year 2001 to 2004 Escape SUVs due to rust that could cause the separation of the lower control arm from the subframe of the vehicle. As of March 31st, 2014, there are 348,800 affected vehicles in the United States and 36,800 vehicles in Canada. The recall covers vehicles sold in the United States where high corrosion is likely to occur, mainly in states that salt their roads in the winter, say Michigan. Dealers will install a cross-brace reinforcement to any vehicle affected by the recall. Ford says it's aware of one crash that could be related to the recall, but isn't aware of any injuries. No injuries or crashes have been reported as a result of the seatback frames, and Ford said the dealers will replace the frames on affected vehicles. And at Toyota, a massive recall. Toyota Motor Corporation has issued a massive recall of 6.4 million vehicles worldwide for a range of glitches from faulty airbags and seat rails to defective windshield wipers. The action covers 5 separate recalls affecting about 2.3 million vehicles in North America and 810,000 in Europe. Toyota said it's unaware of any crashes, injuries, or deaths caused by the problems, which span more than a dozen nameplates. The largest of the 5 recalls, which covers spiral cables in airbags, ranks number 4 in Toyota's recall roster. The latest recalls were announced simultaneously, even though they're unrelated, because that's how the timing of the investigations unfolded, spokesman Brian Lyon said. The recalls of 6.7 million vehicles, it's a total of 6.7 million vehicles, but because some vehicles are involved in more than one recall, only 6.4 million vehicles are being remedied. Well, that's all for this edition of Auto Talk. Check your cars, and I'm Dave Kenny. As always, may the wind be at your back as you cruise down life's highways. Stay tuned to Oxford Community Television, and we'll be right back.
Well, we're moving on up to the east side, to a deluxe apartment in the sky. Moving on up to the east.
I'm John Oetjens, and welcome to the Oxford Wildcats School Update. At an April 1st board meeting, the Oxford School Board approved Superintendent Dr. William Skilling's contract until June of 2019. It was passed 6-0. Bill Keenest was absent. His salary is still the same, just shy of $164,000 plus benefits. The future year's pay will be determined by the board. His position in 2016 could be changed to Superintendent Emeritus of International Programs, Global Outreach, and Fund Development. No change in salary. Dr. Skilling was thinking of retiring in 2016, but the board asked him to stay longer due to the global initiatives of the district. We will also have a new deputy superintendent on July 1st, Tim Throne. He is now the Executive Director of Strategic Initiatives and Technology, and he will fill that post. This is in connection with the district's policy of growing future leaders internally. April and May are exhibition months for the Elementary School International Baccalaureate program. This is where student groups demonstrate how they've put their new skills into action while parents watch. Dr. Jim Schwartz reminds us of what has led up to this.
All of our curriculum in those elementary programs have been redefined, reorganized to fit 6 common themes that run each year. Those common themes are who we are, so students study relationships, relationships of family, community, get to understand themselves, what it means to be human. They study where they are in place and time, how they express themselves. Students learn how different modes of expression, what's appropriate in circumstances and in other circumstances. They study about how the world works, through mathematical science concepts, political and social areas as well, how they organize themselves. So students in terms of organizing thoughts, organizing work, organizing approaches to research, and then lastly, sharing the planet, understanding social, political ramifications.
Assistant Superintendent Jim Schwartz talking about the elementary school IB program. This week we visited the Oxford Early Learning Center. Among other things, we learned about the expansion of the Great Start Readiness Program. Director Washia Jackson, fill us in.
It is a free, and let me reiterate, free preschool program for 4-year-olds, and is paid for through the state of Michigan. Children can come to school, high quality classroom, low student ratios, certified teacher, assistants. It is a wonderful opportunity, and parents do not have to pay anything.
Is this a brand new program, or is it one that's been expanded recently?
It is a recently expanded program. The state of Michigan allocated a lot of money this year to early childhood, which is putting their money where their mouth is, and to our benefit, to the students' benefit. So it's really a great opportunity.
Now, who can take advantage of this?
Surprisingly, this program is really designed for a family that makes about $55,000 a year for a family of 4. So it's not the lower income bracket. And then we have families that can make up to $82,000. We have a 10% spot or allocation.
There are many early childhood programs available. Some are free. You should call the center for more information. Their number is 248-969-5035. Our last message should make a big splash. It comes from Aqua Club of Oxford. They want us to remind you that there's an April special, $19 for a month of unlimited open swimming. How's that for a spring special? We have a special guest in our studio this week. 7-year-old Madison Moody is working on a special broadcasting project for her class at Lakeville Elementary. Here's Madison. Daniel Ashford. Elementary school cafe. And what's the next one? Beginning
ballroom for dancing.
Dancing for adults. 16
and over.
Okay, Madison, you're hired. I'd say that deserves an A, don't you? That's the Oxford Wildcat Schools update for this week. I'm John Oetjens for Oxford Community Television. I'll see you next week.
Hello, I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Terry Stiles.
Together we host a news program called Oxford News This Week.
Oxford News This Week is unique. We provide only local news to Oxford and Addison townships. And you'd be surprised at what's going on in your very own backyard.
And you most likely won't see these stories on any other station. Why? Because they simply don't have enough airtime or interest to cover your local personal interest stories.
Our news programs round up news that is of primary interest to you and your neighbors.
And together, we invite you to watch Oxford News This Week on Oxford Community Television.
Our news program broadcasts at 6 p.m. nightly on Channel 97 for Charter, but as of April 22nd, we are moving. Charter's having us move to Channel 189. Currently, we can be found on YouTube and Facebook as well.
And you can also find us on local news by going to our website at occtv.org and clicking on schedule or by clicking on programs. We'll see you there.
We're easy to find.
Well, we're moving on up to the east side, to a deluxe apartment in Sky.
Hi, I'm Andy Curtis, and this is your OCTV Sports Update. Now, kind of a slow start to the local sports week with the students just getting back from spring break and the typically untypical Michigan weather putting a damper on what are supposed to be spring sports. But this curse-like weather can't stop us from celebrating all the talented Wildcats going to institutions of higher learning. On Wednesday, April 16th, the Oxford High School Athletic Department will be having a college signing ceremony for all the seniors who received offers to play at college sports this upcoming fall. At 3 p.m. in the High School Performing Arts Center lobby, there will be a photo opportunity for parents, media, staff, and students. Now, Oxford being the fertile incubator for student athletes that it is, the list of talented Wildcats moving on is far too long for me to read in my allotted 3 minutes, but is available on the athletic website, oxfordathletics.org, if you want to check it out. And if you do know of a student athlete that is not listed but should be, please have them contact the athletic office or their respective team coach to RSVP for the event. Now, sticking with moving on to the next level, both Michigan and Michigan State's basketball programs will be losing some of their more talented young players earlier than hoped. U of M sophomores Nick Stalsis and Glenn Robinson III, alongside with MSU standout sophomore Gary Harris, have all decided to forego their remaining college careers and enter the NBA draft. These decisions look to deplete both schools' previously talent-heavy rosters fresh off their losses in the Elite Eight round of the NCAA tournament. Harris, being the fifth Spartan under coach Tom Izzo to leave for the NBA before graduating, is projected as an early first-round draft pick alongside Stalskis in the upcoming draft June 26th. Now, it being April means playoff hockey, and playoff hockey for the last 2 decades has meant the Red Wings. The Wings under coach Mike Babcock made it into the NHL postseason for an unprecedented 23rd consecutive year with a win over St. Louis last Sunday. Being counted out earlier in the season because of a growing injury list, the Wings leaned more and more on their younger, talented players brought up from Grand Rapids to clinch the 8th and final playoff spot in the East. Now, this means the Winged Wheelers are going to have to play the Boston Bruins in the first round, who boast the NHL's best regular season record. But as you know, anything can happen in the postseason if you just get your foot in the door. They face off this Friday at 7:30 in Boston. Thanks for watching, and remember, you can catch all of our broadcasts of your favorite Oxford games Saturdays and Sundays between 12:30 and 6 right here on OCTV, or check us out online under the programs section of OCCTV.org. And remember, we do love to hear from you, so if you have a sports idea or want to bring something to my attention that I may have whiffed on, shoot me an email at andrewcurtis23@gmail.com and put OCTV Sports in the title. Thanks for watching, and catch us next week for all the sports news you need to know.
I'm Jim Schwartz, Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction at the Oxford Community Schools. And I'm just putting an open invitation out to folks who might be interested in our Young Fives program, our developmental kindergarten program that is going to be opening in each building that we have this fall. This is for any parent who is thinking about kindergarten, but maybe child's not quite ready for kindergarten and the rigors of kindergarten. Young Fives program would be for you. Having finished a 4-year-old preschool program, this is a nice transition into the rigors of a kindergarten program. Young Fives is a program that is steeped in play, but still offering a great preparation for Common Core and the rigors of our national curriculum that starts in kindergarten. If you have a child who's been born in June 1st of 2009 to December 1st of 2009, we certainly welcome you to enroll at our enrollment offices on 10 North Washington, right in downtown. Come on in, bring proof of residency, birth certificate, and we will get you registered. We are looking forward to classrooms being available for students in buildings across the district. Transportation is provided by the school district for this great opportunity. And again, we have an open invitation, and we hope you join us at Oxford Schools.
Hi, I'm Paul.
I'm Stephanie.
And we're from the Oxford Yoga Studio in downtown Oxford. We're a new studio, and we're opening up at the end of April this month. So come check us out. We're also doing Rise and Shine Yoga that is on every morning at 8:30. So if you get a chance, want to do some yoga, come on down. And we'll see you hopefully at the end of April.
Looking forward to it.
Well, we're moving on up to the east side, to a deluxe apartment in the sky.
Welcome to Science in the News. I'm Dave Kenny, and these stories are taken from the publication New Scientist. In our first story, time gets an upgrade. The world's most accurate clock is now officially ticking. Last week, the U.S. National Institute of Standards and Technology unveiled NIST-F2, an atomic clock that will not lose a second for at least 300 million years. The clock will be used for national timekeeping and for cell phones, GPS, and the finance industry. I wonder how they use it. And in space, NASA has ordered a lunar spacecraft to self-destruct. On April 11th, the LADEE probe was to be instructed to shut down and get on course to crash into the far side of the moon. The probe successfully tested a deep space broadband communication system and analyzed sources of fine-grained dust in the thin lunar atmosphere. And on the medical front, they can't quite walk yet. But 4 wheelchair-bound men who recently were completely paralyzed below the waist can now move their legs and toes and even lift up to 100 kilograms with their legs. Their spinal cords have been reawakened by electrical implants that revive the flow of information between the limbs and brain. Such feats would previously have been unthinkable in people with spinal injuries. We think it's a very large milestone, says Claudio Agnelli of the University of Louisville's Kentucky Spinal Cord Injury Research Center. There's not been anything like this and no hope previously for the most severely injured patients. So this is a very important step forward for them. The device, an array of electrodes, is implanted not at the point of injury, but in the still intact lumbosacral region of the spinal cord, which is the main information hub linking the brain to the lower limbs. Despite being crushed, Agnelli says the spinal cord and its associated nerve connections retain huge capacity to continue sending messages. Since 2012, the 4 men have continued to improve their strength, precision, and range of movement. We've not seen a plateau in their performance yet, says Agnelli. One of the men, Drew Mees, says he can stand without his stimulator. I'm going for full walking again, he says, and that's my motto. Agnelli is now planning to test the device in a further 8 patients. She says that it might be possible to refine the implant so it enables better coordination, possibly leading to walking. With this in mind, she is starting experiments in animals with an implant that has 27 instead of 16 electrodes. Agnelli says the implant restores what in healthy people would be the resting potential of the spinal cord, the baseline electrical activity that keeps the cord alert, but which wanes through the lack of use in people who are paralyzed. Once this background electrical impetus is restored artificially, the cord reawakens and can register the brain's intent to move from the brain and convert this to fine movement at the motor neuron level. And by modulating the voltage for each individual and for each task, algorithms that optimize delivery of electrical activity for specific movement can be worked out and applied at will by the patients. But the existing device has some limitations, says Agnelli. For example, the programs tend to be different for right and left legs or toes, so only one can be moved at a time. The hope is that a more sophisticated device will be able to deliver algorithms simultaneously and so coordinate movement in both legs to enable standing and walking. Simple as it sounds, it remains quite a challenge. Another boost for the men is that to varying degrees, they have all recovered bladder, bowel, and sexual function. That really restores dignity, says Roderick Pettigrew, director of the U.S. National Institute of Biomedical Engineering and Bioengineering at Bethesda, Maryland. And in our last story, have you been bothered by a dog that's barking at you? Well, postmen will be pleased. They can now calm, that is to say, unruly dogs with a small dose of a pig pheromone. Androstenone is found in boar saliva and helps attract mates. Now, it's an ingredient in a spray for use on boisterous dogs. John McClone of Texas Tech University discovered the effect by luck. My dog was barking, he says, so I sprayed it and he stopped. McClone then tested the pheromone by spraying dogs while exposing them to a loud noise that would normally excite them. It proved better than alcohol spray at keeping the dogs calm. The spray is now a commercial product, but McClone says he still doesn't know exactly how it works, and he doesn't care. Well, that's it for this edition of Science in the News. I'm Dave Kenny. Stay tuned to Oxford Community Television, and we'll be right back.
You're watching OCTV, Oxford Community Television, serving Oxford, Addison Township, and the village of Leonard.